Okay, so let's continue on with some more critical reading practice before the test. So the second step to critical reading before the test, after you use the title to predict, is to look at each of the paragraphs and use the same type of logic as for the title and for the title picture. Again, you might remember this from the lessons when I explained to you writing task 2, when you're writing your essay. When you write your essay, each paragraph should explain to the reader what your ideas are, so the topic sentence, why you have these ideas, these are the supporting point ones, and then an explanation in the real world how we can see this. So in your writing, for writing task 2, you will have what, why, how for each of your body paragraphs. And it's no surprise that the reading passages in the IELTS also follow the same type of logic, because again, this is clear communication. This is how we communicate information. So the second step of critical reading is read each paragraph separately. And ask, what? Simply, what is this paragraph about? Why? Why does the paragraph talk about this topic? And how? How does the paragraph support this topic? So basically what you're doing here is you're breaking the paragraphs into pieces of information. You're identifying the topic sentence with the what, then you're identifying the explanations with the why, and then you're identifying the examples with the how. When you get to the questions in the reading passage, you will notice that each question is focusing on one of these three answers. So the questions in the reading passage will be either a what, a topic style, or a why, looking for an explanation, or a how, looking for an example. If you train your mind to be able to see the passage in these pieces, you will be much faster at answering the questions, and if you have to look or skim for the information, you'll be able to find that much faster. So make sure that before the test, you train your mind to be able to do this type of thinking. All right, let's again look at the example taken from www.ahelp.com, which is in a previous video with the native British speaker. And let's break the paragraphs down into the what, why, how, just for a couple examples so you see how you can do this. Okay, so the first paragraph for Mountains of Ice reads, the word iceberg derives from the Dutch word ijsberg, meaning ice mountain. Icebergs are sections of glaciers that have broken off during the warmer summer months and float freely in open water. Icebergs are typically found in open water, predominantly around Greenland and Antarctica. The characteristics of icebergs, their historical impact, and the methods we employ today to monitor them are important topics. Alright, so first, let's ask ourselves, what is this paragraph about? And again, keep your answers simple. So, what is the paragraph about? Well, all we have to do here is look at the first couple sentences, and usually the answer is in the first couple sentences. So the answer to this question is the paragraph introduces the topic of icebergs. All right, very simple. Let's go to the next question. Why? Why does the paragraph introduce this topic? All right, so we can see that near the end of the paragraph, it says to us that the characteristics of icebergs, their historical impact, and the methods we employ today to monitor them are important topics. And that's going to be the answer to this one. So, answer, their history, impact, and the way we monitor them are important. Great. So now we'll go to our final question, which is the how. How are these icebergs occurring? So how does this happen? How does this happen? Again, you'll realize that sometimes the more difficult thing is asking the right question. Don't worry about this in the beginning. You'll get better and better the more paragraphs you look at. And then once you can ask the right questions and give the right answers, you'll see that you're going to understand a lot of the information much faster. And not only understand it, but you're going to be able to remember and recall and use this information much more. So in the beginning, I strongly suggest doing this on paper and pencil. So writing down all of your questions, writing down all of your answers. Make sure you keep it simple. And then when you have lots of practice, you will start to be able to do this just in your head. And then during the test, it will be just natural for your thinking to be able to do this. So how does this happen? Well, again, if we look at the paragraph, it tells us somewhere in the middle that icebergs are sections of glaciers that break off during warmer summer months and float freely in open water. So, answer, icebergs break off in summer months and float freely in open water. All right, so make sure to go back, review your questions and answers just to make sure that you have the right idea. So what is the paragraph about? The paragraph introduces the topic of icebergs. Why does the paragraph introduce this topic? Well, because their history, impact, and the way we monitor them are important. How does this happen? Well, icebergs break off in the summer months and float freely in open water. And then it tells us we're around Greenland and Antarctica. Great, so now we can be sure that we truly understand this paragraph. The difficulty is when we're reading, in many situations, we think we understand what we read, but there's no guarantee. So with this critical reading technique and practice, you can make sure that you truly understand what you're reading and you're not just thinking that you understand what you're reading. All right, so now that we looked at the introductory paragraph, let's just look at one more paragraph, go through the same set of questions, and then the rest of it you can practice at home and in your free time.